Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report podcast. I'm your host, Vago Muradian. Our podcast is brought to you by Bell. Since 1935, Bell has been redefining flight. Learn more about its pioneering spirit at bellflight.com. Had the deadly coronavirus not intervened, we would have been in Tampa a couple of weeks ago to cover the National Defense Industrial Association's annual SOFIC conference and trade show, the number one gathering of special operators in the world. We are now covering the virtual version of SOFIC called vSOFIC, where our coverage is sponsored by Bell, Elbit Systems of America, and Leonardo DRS. And joining us now is Brett Pierson, the Vice President of Defense Strategy and Sales at Textron Aviation. Brett, thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I should point out, you're a retired United States Navy captain who's a former test pilot before you joined the Textron family of companies. Let me ask you a little bit for clarification, right? I mean, the companies, your AT-6 Wolverine, we've talked about it for years. That's an adaptation of the Texan 2 T-6 trainer, obviously a foundational trainer for the United States and nations around the world. A long-time competition between the A-29 by Sierra Nevada for the U.S. Air Force's light attack aircraft program. Both of you guys were selected for that, and that's an air combat command program in order to be able to field a capability for allies and partners that may not need a high-end combat aircraft like an F-16 or other fast mover. Now the U.S. Special Operations Command is also interested in an armed overwatch program. We talked to General Clark, the commander of U.S. Special Operations Command, and he highlighted that need. Talk to us really quickly on where the Air Force effort stands at this point, and then we can talk a little bit about the SOCOM effort.
Sure. For the Air Force effort, we're actively engaged with the Light Attack Program Office up at Wright Pat Air Force Base. We're under an OTA, other transactional authority, to deliver two AT-6 Echo airplanes. One of the things that we're excited about is that the airplane has been given its official MDS by the Air Force, and it is in fact an AT-6 Echo. So that's kind of cool. We were all very excited to be officially in the inventory like that with a real designation. They'll be purchasing two of them. And the first one will be delivered a little later this year into the process to get its military type cert. And then the second one will be built on the line, production line, and delivered in the following year so that the Air Force can have both of those airplanes ready to support experimentation with light, exportable, reconfigurable data links. Predominantly, I would for partner nations, but that'll all remain to be seen and as they develop what the follow-on Airnet Experiment is going to look like. Our role in that is to deliver and train pilots to be ready to fly, so that Air Force pilots are flying the AT-6 in the Airnet experiments.
And obviously a very easy transition as folks go from the T-6 into the AT-6, and anybody who's got wings now has certainly gone through that pipeline. How many airplanes does the Air Force eventually want to procure, and what's the sort of schedule we're looking at there?
Right now, the experiment, the scope of the experiment is such that the two airplanes that we're under agreement to deliver right now are sufficient. Our hope is certainly that the Airnet experiment would broaden as more international interest picks up in being able to be part of a common shared worldwide network. And as the experiment grows, the Air Force will have a need for more of the airplanes to do that. And also as foreign partners get a chance to fly the airplane and see what a tremendous capability it brings for very low initial cost and incredibly low logistics footprint and flight hour cost with a single engine prop, that as we sell to some of those foreign partners, there might be even more need for the Air Force to have some advisor role type purchases as well. But for right now, the OTA that we're under is filled with the two airplanes.
And let's talk a little bit about what Special Operations Command is interested in this new armed overwatch program, because it's not quite exactly what Air Combat Command is looking for. And I know that you'd much rather the command talk about this, but in bigger, in sort of breadbox terms, what's the kind of capability the Special Operations Command is looking for, and how are you guys positioning and working to try to satisfy that program?
Sure. We've Armed Overwatch is also an OTA, other transactional authority, and the announcement for that OTA says that SOCOM is looking for an airplane to perform close air support, armed ISR, strike coordination reconnaissance, and then FAC-A, forward air control airborne. And the goal is to have an airplane that can do that in a very austere environment with very low logistics footprint, and in deployed conditions. So for us, we were excited about that because we built the airplane for exactly that. And so the AT-6E that we're delivering to the Air Force with very slight modifications for specific avionics and equipment that SOCOM might want is very easily adaptable into the Armed Overwatch platform. It doesn't take much at all. So no development really work to be done. It's just a matter of shifting priority. We're simultaneously still got part of my folks working on delivering the two to the Air Force, and part of my folks working on prepping an AT-6 to go participate in the Armed Overwatch prototype demonstration that SOCOM has suggested will be sometime later this year.
And would you clarify for the audience, because there are some folks who are going to be confused by this, right?
Sure.
Because both of you guys won both Sierra Nevada Embraer with the A29 won, and you guys won with the AT-6. You're going to be sending two airplanes to Air Combat Command, and what are they doing? Because there's a little bit of confusion on who's doing what. So they're doing something else.
Sure. The Air Combat Command is who will be running the exportable network Airnet experiments. And they'll be running, so Air Combat Command is running those with the AT-6s with Airnet, is as I understand the plan. Our competitor is under agreement to deliver airplanes to the combat air advisors down in Florida, because there are nations who are flying that airplane today that they can do training with.
I got it. What is sort of the lesson from this, Brent? This program has been ongoing for a very, very long time at this point. And there are folks who look at it and go, you got two great airplanes here. Why is this process taking so long? What are we learning that we could not have learned sooner? I don't want to put you on the spot as somebody who's the contractor for this, but a lot of folks look at this and are sort of, curious what about this is taking as long as it is.
Sure. I to be honest, I don't have a great answer for that. We are in constant communication with the customer, and I think as anybody has known, when they're doing business, it takes a long time. There are sometimes shifting requirements or changing focus. Our view of our role has been to stay in constant contact and do our best to shift with that as the customer shifts.
Right. And
so far, we've been able to. In terms of what happened or where it went, I would absolutely not be able to answer that.
You're in the business of crisply saluting and executing. So
we've got we've got a great product, and we've got a customer that shows interest in the product. So I'm doing everything I can to keep that product relevant and directly aimed at the desires of the customer. And that's all I'm trying to do.
And very quickly, just give us a sense on where you are in talks around the world. I mean, obviously, the COVID pandemic is hitting everybody and is likely to constrain spending in a lot of places. But that could conversely give you guys a little bit of an opportunity. Give us a little bit of an update on where you guys stand on campaigns around the world, not just for the trainer variant, but for the AT-6. And if you want to add a little bit of Scorpion, just the tremendous capability that folks have been waiting to see something on as well. If you could give us an update on all that, would be great.
Sure. The biggest thing we're working right now with the T6 is really the realization that with the AT-6E, in service and available, what makes a lot of sense for a lot of nations is to have an airplane that you train in the T6, and then you flow into the AT-6 as your combat aircraft. Again, the two airplanes share a common heritage. They share 85% parts commonality. They share logistics. So if you train to fly the T6, it's a very easy transition. So for a lot of international air forces, for whom the AT6 is hits the sweet spot for a need, particularly in austere environment, doesn't need to be operated out of a giant base or an FBO. We've been posting a lot. We just recently completed a test detachment where we did a bunch of austere field landings to round out all the data in our pubs for dirt fields. And there's some great shots of the dirt field we were operating out of. That one of my coworkers asked if we were even at a runway because it looked like we had just landed on the side of a road somewhere. And so it's been exciting to see that nations that have a desire for that kind of airplane are really looking at a two-plane combination where they get T6s to train in and then AT6s to fight with. And I think that's a really compelling opportunity for people. And we're now very happy to offer that, to offer training in an airplane that air forces all over the world are learning to fly in, and that our own nation, all services fly in, to be able to take that knowledge and translate it directly into a combat aircraft that actually fits your need, I think creates a compelling argument, all backed by, the whole Made in America, the Heartland's got your back kind of environment that we offer at coming out of Wichita, Kansas.
Are we going to be hearing any news on Scorpion anytime soon?
Yeah, so Scorpion right now we continue to have some business for it. We're operating it largely in an RDT&E role.
Right.
It turns out that by trying to build a modular, open architecture, low cost, light attack platform, light strike platform, ISR strike platform, whichever niche you're looking to fill there, we inadvertently created a phenomenal RDT&E asset, because we can rapidly put pieces and parts and systems on and off that airplane and just go back and fly again, because the federated safety of flight system and the mission system don't crosstalk. So we can take mission elements, and the intent of that was to be able to rapidly swap mission elements as the mission changed, but it also lets you put kit under test on and off the airplane very rapidly, to where we can, if it fits, we can fly it. There's no regression testing and making sure that it doesn't backtalk into the aircraft's OMS or anything like that. So we've been using the airplane in a fee for hire situation, getting rapidly developing folks who were either not able to afford or not able to get on the schedule of the traditional DoD test assets. So that's been great, and it's gotten us a chance to keep the airplane flying and getting better, and also help some folks out with development by letting them get something in the air much faster and much cheaper than they might have been able to otherwise. So that's where we're at with Scorpion right now, is doing that kind of work, and we've got a couple items ready to go in that we'll be getting to shortly.
And in about 30 seconds, how's COVID impacting you guys, and are you going to be getting back to some sense of normalcy soon?
The company was great about immediately going to adopting social distancing rules and keeping us safe. We put as many folks as we possibly could working from home. On the defense side of the business, we had defense contracts were still underway and still funded and still expecting results on time. So we've been hard at work the whole time. I think we've all explored the outer boundaries of what you can do via telecommute and Microsoft Teams meetings,
right.
But at the same time, have enough people in at work that are physically working on the airplanes, flying the airplanes. Like I said, we managed to run a complete test detachment off-site, even with the travel restrictions, and get all the data done. It was more work than it would have been in a pre-COVID world, but it was successful. So we're looking forward to getting back now into more of a sense of normalcy as things start to reopen. We've got a few more people coming back into the office, and a few more elements of life coming back, but we're still social distancing, still trying to make sure the building stays safe, and do it in a smart way.
Brett, thanks very much for joining us. Hope you, yours, and your team stay well.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for the time, Barbara.
And thanks for joining us. Please follow our daily interviews with top government, military, industry, and thought leaders at Defense and Aerospace Report, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Follow us on Twitter at DEFAERO Report. That's at DEFAERO Report. Like us on Facebook at Defense and Aerospace Report, and check us out on LinkedIn. And check out our weekly cyber report sponsored by Northrop Grumman. For more than 80 years, Bell has pushed past the boundaries of what's possible to drive aviation forward, going above and beyond flight, bellflight.com. Thanks again to Bell for their generous sponsorship, and we'll see you again tomorrow.